Well, hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the Cosmic Labyrinth. We've been out for a lot longer than 2 weeks this time, just because some of us got retrograded during that Mercury.
Oh, so deep.
So, and all those retrogrades in 6 planets. So, yeah, we kind of had to do some reviewing, but we're
Yes.
back in action. Um, it's
Back.
Tizzle.
Full effect, y'all. Back in full effect. We've recuperated.
Yes. I love your background matches your shirt actually.
Thank you. We're
Has
doing
blue
like
rainbow.
chill
Yeah.
Hawaiian vibes.
Woo.
Yeah.
Well, I'm over here in the crazy storm, everybody.
Portals.
Portals, we've experienced a big storm here in Florida, right? I'm not in Florida, but as culturally as a group, we all experience some storms. And so, I think this is the vibe now. But look, it's a beautiful sky through that storm. So I think,
Yes.
we got to experience some of the tougher parts in our lives, the valleys as we call it, so that we can get back up to the top, right?
We're making it happen. Thank
Exactly.
you for being the example, chosen one.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's now look into our astrology weather for today. And also, anybody who's watching this show a lot further on, a lot of times these astrology readings are not meant to be one time only, but they're meant to cross beyond time. And so whatever time you're reading this, maybe hearing this astrology forecast can also kind of trigger some things within you. So, please don't think that like you got skip this 20 minute of like our weather forecast, because it could be very important just when you need it.
Timely, always.
Yes, and that's how we are multidimensional beings.
Facts, facts. Oh man.
So let's see, we are now coming into Libra. Venus is in Libra, which is really nice. It's a little bit nice to come out of that retrograde with a nice feminine energy to dry us out from this crazy storm.
Right. Mm.
Mercury is straight now in 24 degrees Virgo here.
And its own little home.
Yes. Oh, exactly opposing Neptune in Pisces. That's also retrograding. So, um,
Opposition.
and I think it's probably in dreams. You guys probably getting some crazy dreams out there. Anybody? You guys probably experiencing. I mean, everyone is experiencing a lot of dream work right now because that Neptune in Pisces is retrograding. So I think dreams are a lot of times very important in our reviewing our experiences. And so when Neptune retrogrades, I feel like our dreams is a place for us to kind of rewind our life tape.
Yes, deeply. And I would also say with what's going on in these dream realms, and I've been taking heed to this myself, like a former student who I just am really close to literally popped up in my dream last night, and I immediately sent her a text message. So whether you're reaching out to the people that are coming up in your dreams to check in with them or you're journaling, it's a very important time to document and record the dreams or reach out as like people are coming to you because there's a reason for that energy, and act on it. Okay. Don't just be like, oh, that was a coincidence. No, there's a reason. So it's definitely something that's deeper on a more subconscious level, but don't sleep on it.
Well, technically you did sleep on it already, right? Now it's the action, as we call it.
Ba-da-ba. Yes.
And I think this is really important when we start talking about, if we say we're multidimensional beings, let us start to talk about this other multidimension, which is our dream world, right? And
Right.
so it's very important for us to take into account what's going on in our dreamscape so that we understand, that our subconscious is really trying to speak to us in that realm. Because as the idea of Neptune doesn't have boundaries. It doesn't have gravity as a physical limitation. It doesn't have, touch that is where like your hands can become one. Only in lucid dreamings can you do that, and that's why sometimes our subconscious needs to speak to us in that language.
I agree. And then I want to add too the fact that Jupiter and Chiron are both in Aries, that is I am energy. So it's really important for you to deep dive into like what's going on internally, right? And where you're having, I don't want to just call them wounds because I know certain people feel a type of way about using the word wounds, but like what are things that you have been really holding on to that have been shaping the way you think? And how can you revise how you're thinking about those things and utilizing your dreams as a means to make those adjustments? Um, and it's really to help you and your journey, right? And then you have your North Node in Taurus, so it's really like in the same kind of vein. So it's like, what are the things that you need to do to become more stable, to provide more support to yourself, right? Because if you're not providing the support to yourself, if you're not taking care of your needs, if you're not doing the self healing, if you're not doing the self care, how can you be of service to anyone else? Like, really, really think about that. So it's coming through you to your dreams. It's coming to you in like the synchronicities or gifts, right? Jupiter, right? That energy. So pay attention to all these little finite details because it's all a part of the puzzle.
And we still got the Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, and the moon's coming in around here in Aquarius too, right? So emotionally, and I think this is kind of, the idea of Zoom and remote working is very much like what we as a planet experience Aquarius together, right?
Hmm.
And so we're probably noticing how in our lives we're incorporating talking on Zoom a lot more, right? I mean, we are now basically, Tizzle and I, when doing this show, has become part of our lives, right? And that's
Yeah,
how Aquarius is part of our lives and has enhanced it. And it's changed a lot of things in our lives in terms of work. Even in school, we have hybrid classes now. We're talking about
right.
this, right, Tizzle?
Yes,
Where in summer classes, like some of us are living like 2 hours, an hour away from school, and with inflation and gas prices, hey, maybe it makes more sense that we're talking on Zoom, and then maybe like the hands-on experience can be once a week rather than twice
right.
a week. We're showing up to our school or to our workplace, right?
And in addition, I just want to add on that now, like you brought that to my attention. It's what the collective needs in order to do the work in the houses ahead of that. It's like you have to take that pause, you have to take that time to like really assess and be like, huh, is there a different way that I should be going about this than I was before? Okay, this is available to me. Why don't I utilize it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really also, I had imagery as we were talking about this because it will help shape kind of even how we see today's society, because these are really big planets going on, Pluto, Saturn happening, that's really showing up in our structure, which is our culture.
Hmm.
And Capricorn, the goat, loves to climb mountains, right? So you imagine the idea of earth energy becoming a mountain. So the highest mountain, climbing that mountain is really the epitome of what you mean, like an earth sign getting to the top of the mountain, right? You're kind of like
Yeah.
Mount Olympus kind of experience. And then you guys ever seen those goats, the Capricorn goats climbing on mountains? They're like, I think what's his name, Tom Cruise, watched some of them and said, hey, I want to be like goats, right? You could be a goat climbing on those mountains. I have no idea how those hoes can climb on those mountains.
Yeah,
But
so funny.
that represents the mountainscape. And when you think about it, that also represents the cityscape, the
Yes.
the towers that we have today, the skyscrapers that we call, those are the mountain. We used to climb mountains, right? All of us.
Mhm.
And we understood that penthouse, man, you reach that, materialism. What Aquarius to me feels like, it's almost like we're all spreading across the land now, maybe in different nodes, like the internet, right? There's no different levels of the internet.
Mm.
It's almost the internet is all nodes sharing information. As you share information, they can, do triple, quadruple the work. And so in a way, when we spread
Mhm.
out like an Aquarius energy, and that's why with Zoom, imagine that we can go and work a lot. Like I could work further away from the city, but still be connected to the city. Once a week, I can come
Yes.
in, drive in for the 2 hours and connect to the people in the city. But I don't have to always live in a very crowded space trying to climb to this top of the mountain. we're building this Dubai, right? From sand to like these giant skyscrapers. We synthetically created mountains like Capricorn Mountains, and those
Mm.
were the end of the last generation, and we're moving to this Aquarius generation where maybe instead of skyscrapers, we're all living in a part of land. Some of us live in mountains, some of us live in rivers, some of us live in oceans. I don't know. Maybe you can remote from under the sea. I'm from the Atlantic Ocean here, calling you with my internet. And that's the beauty of what Aquarius is like we can really find jobs that we really love that is, outside of the cityscape. So that's what I'm really excited about with that moon kind of kicking in. And I know Pluto in Capricorn eventually meet us in Aquarius, but it's okay.
Yeah. Ooh, it's about to get deep, like literally,
Yes,
because
yeah.
Pluto is not trying to do anything surface, y'all. Right. And so I think that's interesting too, because as you were talking about the mountains and how we used to traverse them, I also, you think about the seven directions, like, and I was thinking about that within element and how Pluto is very much about the within. So it's like, what is the work that you need to do within to help you get to the top? Right? And again, it boomerangs back to what's going on in the 12th house with Pisces and Neptune and Aries and Jupiter and then Aries and Chiron. Like you got to really go within, y'all. Like like trying to escape it and just do everything that's outside of you. You can do it. I'm not telling you you can't. But if you really want to get to that goat level, you have to do the inner work. You have to do the inner
I see what you did there. That was
work.
good. Yes, that was good. Whew, goat meme. That's good. I was also just looking at the chart. It's
Mm,
just we never know because sometimes I do Los Angeles, sometimes I do Houston. Today we did a Houston chart at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. It's an Aries, it's a default rising chart, right? And so in a
wow.
way, with the sixth retrograde, and we're talking about how like what the old represents and the new will become is coming anew, you're seeing the chart being reset as an Aries, right? But yet
Yep.
you see all the major assets we've been talking about is right before it, right? You have Jupiter in Aries right before the ascendant. You look at the Sun and Venus before Libra, right before it goes into Libra, right? So it's almost
Mm.
like we're at the precipice of like a reboot in our
Aries,
in our
yes.
culture, in our experience, astrologically. And what's happening is all these kind of retrograde are kind of like, hey, review all the stuff you got to kind of deal with, maybe flush out some stuff you don't need, maybe look at things you really do care about and really pay attention to that, because the passions that you love are really going to carry us a little bit further in kind of like our future.
Mm,
Because this is a place of Aquarius energies. You have to be an individual and stand on your own. And that
yes.
means you have to stand for something, you have to be about something. And that's kind of these Aries retrogrades here in Jupiter and Chiron is like, hey, be about something because once it's time for Aquarius time, everybody's a star. Our
Yes.
divine code is activating. And I think we're all being called to do our divine work, our divine mission, whatever our soul wanted to incarnate to be, and astrology kind of gives us a
Mm.
little bit of a guidance so that some of us like it to be blindfolded and walk around and ooh get surprised.
Wow. And I thank you for all that. Cause like the other thing I just noticed, Aries is action, right? It's the warrior. And the chart right now, like if I could summarize the chart, it's the don't talk about it, be about it chart, right? Like it is because I mean, you have Jupiter in Aries, the rising is in Aries, you have Chiron in Aries, like these are all things where you need to be taking action. And then on the opposite end of it, you have Mercury in Virgo. Like you so it's not playing.
Yeah,
Don't just talk. You have to take action as well,
exactly.
right? It's so
And the sixth
hmm,
house of every day. So take action every day, right?
yes. Yeah.
Right? Like there's a place for prayers. And the prayers is to collect your thoughts. But when it's like, hey, guess what? God said you are the hand to make your own prayer come
Mm,
true.
yes.
Virgo steps in and said, let's do the work, right? Let's do the
Right?
spiritual work. So,
Yeah.
to all of you, like, thank you for being here and doing the work, you know? It's
We
very
appreciate.
beautiful.
It's
Yes.
helping the whole collective, y'all. When you do the work, it helps us. It helps. It's the ripple. The ripple is real.
I like to imagine a puzzle, right? You've seen those crazy 1,000 piece puzzles. No
Mm.
piece is the same, right? But imagine if you were to put a puzzle and then one of the puzzle was slightly smaller than all the other puzzle pieces and you couldn't complete your puzzle piece, right? So
Mm.
every puzzle piece would be like, hey, let us support you so you become the best puzzle piece because together we are a masterpiece.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right. And so that's why it's all about really helping each other becoming more of ourselves. And then why we really push this idea of astrology to understand your own code. You know, the matrix, we talk about the matrix as a metaphor for our lives. So what if we told you, hey, I can teach you computer science that it uses the matrix code so you can read how life gets manifested. And
Right.
astrology is one code. There's I think multiple codes, people use human design, people use so many different types of reading energies, which is what we used to consider the arts of alchemy and the idea of how
Right.
we manipulate our reality. And today is just really lost art. And, we experience it as bits and pieces from other cultures coming in, and then some of it has been very dogmatically turning to religion. But I think a lot of us really innately understand that, like, there's ways to read the energetic flow of nature, whatever that looks like.
Yes, I agree. Well said.
So speaking
Mm.
of which this flows into our next topic. The reason we do these kind of 20-minute astrology forecast is really believe is that understanding how the flow of energy happens allows you to not just react but create the
Mm.
reality you want to be in. A lot of times we react so much because, like, I didn't see that coming. If we say, if I mean, it's I'm trying to be uh about caring about that thunderstorm, but the idea that we've been talking about this thunderstorm, and if people didn't leave when the thunderstorm came, you can't say you didn't see the signs.
Mm.
Astrology is a little bit like that, right? Or
Right.
because people who don't believe in astrology, I tell them just look at the sun, one planet that does a revolution around the earth, or the earth revolutions around it, and how it changes 4 seasons, that you have to change your way of life, the way you dress, the
Yes.
way you eat, the
Yes.
way you sleep. All those happen to you. And if you did not know that the winter kept coming and you walked in and it's snowing, you're like, oh my goodness, I got the sniffles and I got sick. You can't say that you don't believe in astrology. The astrology, the weather is happening all the time. So
Mm.
it's important for us to understand it because it affects our soul, right? And I think this
Yes.
is a deeper conversation where the weather can affect me physically, but I'm inside the house. The weather, I mean, besides thunderstorm, the house may not last, but when you're having energetic changes like full moons, y'all, a
Every
house
28
cannot,
days, y'all.
yeah, a
Every
house
28
cannot
days.
contain that energy, right? So, it makes sense. I think I think that the whole idea, it's really interesting. I'm actually in a school now, and one of my topics is gynecology. So I'm have a report this weekend about why the menses is important to women, right? So
Yes.
it's really interesting because it follows the moon cycle. And that's really interesting because that's the flow of energy, right? And
Yes.
so when back in the days, so this is kind of like a topic too, like in our current cultural stigma, there's a point where, like, hey, bleeding is dirty, blah blah blah, there's this negative stigma around it, we want to get rid of it because it's inconvenient in women's lives. And so what's happened is this beautiful act of this energy that happens has become kind of like stifled, but yet there's a group of women that's just trying to say, hey, no, let's accept that it naturally happens to us so that we can
Yes.
work with it rather than try to hide it and create all these disharmonies in our bodies. And so that's the idea of astrology too, right? Astrology is moving, but it's up to you whether or not we want to hold ourselves. And so, like you said, when we're having a retrograde is natural time where, like, if we understood as a culture that we needed to kind of take a break, don't start any contracts, maybe kind of look over at things, because this is a time when things get, I
Woo.
try to make an Instagram post, I check everything, I publish, and it broke. And I was like, thank you, retrograde. And I just left it at that. That's,
Yeah, let
you
it
know,
be.
yeah, I looked at it multiple times, and it's when I published at that moment that, the digits.
Them ones and zeros couldn't hang.
Exactly. And you could easily get mad, right? I could go, oh my God, as a Virgo, I'm not perfect. I did something stupid. I can't believe I would, but yet when you're in retrograde, it almost kind of allows you to chuckle, go, okay, this is why you double, triple check things, you know?
Yes, you have to. And
Exactly.
I appreciate you sharing that because a lot of people don't think about how these planetary shifts are heavily affecting their day to day. And if you just take the time to pay attention, right? I say for me, astrology is like your GPS, right? We have gotten around this rock for generations without GPS. Just keeping it real. Whether it's through, right, looking at how the sun moves across the sky, or looking at how the stars move across the sky, right? People were knowing how to navigate, but now that we have our phones, we can plug into Google, MapQuest, like whatever you use. Shout out to the people who are still using MapQuest, right? But here's the thing, GPS just helps you to get to wherever you're trying to go. What? Faster, more efficiently. It tells you when there's an accident. It tells you when there's a speed trap. It tells you when there's traffic. Tells you astrology is the same thing, y'all.
And you can
Astrology is
still
the
choose
same
your
thing.
path, right? Even when you drive, GPS tells you what you could do, but you can still go and say, no, I want to see that accident.
Right. I want to go the extra 4 minutes. Okay. I want to take the scenic route. Bet. Do it then. And we say that because, yes, astrology is not a one size fits all. Everybody has what they resonate with astrology, and there are people who don't resonate with it at all for whatever reason. But when you literally just look at the stars, you look at what's been happening for generations, and you pay attention to these cycles with the sun, you pay attention to the cycles with the moon, you pay attention to the cycles with the seasons. It's all related. It all has to do with astrology, y'all.
Yeah.
Right? And say we don't even call it astrology.
Exactly. Actually, so on the east side, right, we don't call it astrology. We actually call it the five element theory. And then we actually also have something called the I Ching. The I Ching is a yin yang system that is basically the original pattern of the binary code in computers.
No way.
Yeah, yin yang are these lines, right? Which is kind of like it looks like Morse code, but it's basically a long strand is yang, two strands is yin, right? So it's basically ones and
Oh,
zero.
yes.
And so where was the computer first created? In Japan. Japan used the I Ching to divine their own version of astrology. Whatever symbols came out was basically the symbol you needed to hear about, kind of like this 12 charts. The 64 hexagram is kind of represented. So 64 hexagram, because if you guys hear anything, 64-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit, 2 to the whatever, 2 to the 8, it's 60, right? 2 to the 16-bit, right? 2 to the 32-bit. And that's kind of all where all this comes from, right? So
They don't tell you
64,
none of this in school.
no,
You go
exactly.
ahead and stop this and rewind it and re-listen to that
Yeah.
because I know all y'all were just low key shook like I was just now. Come
So the
on.
I Ching and the computer is referencing our own way of how we divine information using natural laws, right? And so the
Oh,
five element also represents the season for us. And so we use the five concept. In the West, it's four, but I believe there's an aspect of ether, which is five. And so, there's been what I think both sides have been kind of, let's call it deterioration of genetics and information for whatever reason, external and internal. We've forgotten some things. And I think now we're waking up to what we've forgotten. And we are trying to kind of together as multiple cultures kind of fit in all the missing pieces. And
yes.
that's where like the idea that mine's better than yours is actually a detriment to us creating the entire puzzle piece, right? Because it's almost like we all went to different places in the world to find our puzzle pieces. So when we come together, we can say, hey, these puzzle pieces work together really well. I just had to actually go and live with my own people to make it stronger. So now when we come together, our culture refined this information, right? Almost like the 12
mm.
signs separated and came back, and now we are trying to represent the 13th sign, which is the whole of the 12. And so, I think in general, whatever theory patterns we try to explain in nature, it's kind of our way of reading the message of what we call the divine creator that's communicating to us through these external signs. But we
Yes.
internally, because of our subconscious, are actually projecting these external signs. So astrology, what I really like about these concepts, not even just astrology, human design, they explain the mind, body, spirit
Connection
relationship,
deeply. Yeah.
connection deeply. And I think that's what's really missing in education today, and why you have education broken up into, your mental education is in academics, your spiritual education is in religion, and then your physical education is in sports, right? And so what happens is you have these three aspects of yourself again separated and haven't come whole. The same idea of all of our signs have kind of gone. The fire signs get along really well with fire signs, but they hate the water signs that we haven't learned to get along. And so what happens is we keep having, and what we're trying to do is actually try to show how holistic these elements come together. So in
Yes.
astrology, I don't tell people you only are your sun sign. No, you actually are the 12 signs, but you chose more emphasis wherever the planets show up.
Oh my gosh. I
And
love you for
so
saying that.
it's like, to me as a gamer, I was born with character sheet, like a Dungeons and Dragon character sheet. And Dungeons and Dragon map, they called it Earth. And so we have to go find dragons down here on planet Earth. Let's not talk about how realistic that sounds, which I don't want to get into these rabbit holes of dragons. But it's really powerful when you realize that, I'm a character player in an MMO world, multi-massive online role-playing game. I'm role-playing
Yes.
this character called Charlie Trin, and I got this
Mm.
character chart on my birthday that shows me my character sheet, right?
Dude, I just think okay, the show's over. Let's just
No, no, no. So
No,
so
dude.
this is what's really exciting is,
Oh,
what if we taught in education more like, we get people to understand the charts. And even I really do believe in, like, some place, like, you don't need to read the entire chart because sometimes you're not ready to understand it, right?
correct.
But sometimes the beginning is just so, I feel like a lot of times culture likes to tell us who to be. You're a guy who's Asian, who is this big, who is that small, and so you will fit in this really well because we need you in this. And what happens is we become very disheartened over time by something we're not, right? And if we had a way of, a chart, like a cheat sheet, and go, hey, why are you playing a rogue? You're actually a really friendly character that likes to play music, but
Right.
you're like going around trying to like backstab people and you suck at it. I go, I know, I hate backstabbing people.
But that's the thing, when you don't have the awareness or the knowledge, you almost become susceptible to adapting someone else's story of you as your own. And the thing about astrology is that it really allows you to read like, okay, well, this is the cheat sheet I came in here with, but as I go through the game, as I have these experiences, then I get to make different choices. I get to upgrade or downgrade and shift the way that I want to exist in this game and the different paths that I want to take. You are the one that is in control. It is not this external thing outside of you. You are literally the creator of your own reality. And astrology assists with that in some ways, in a lot of ways. If, in fact, in all ways. However, you don't have to take, like, you take what resonates, you leave what doesn't. It's that easy. It's literally that easy. And when you begin to learn more, when you begin to be around people collectively who think in the same way, then you get greater understanding. Then you can really like feel it. Because oftentimes, like I just in my class, right? They just did the astro doodle. What's an astro doodle, y'all? It's an assignment where I ask my students to look up 6 aspects of their chart: their sun, their rising, their moon, their midheaven, their Mercury, and their north node. Why those 6, Tizzle? Because for me, as an educator, when you are just starting into astrology and you want a little bit of an idea about how you're going to approach the classroom, maybe approach how you do curriculum, knowing how you communicate your Mercury, knowing what you signed up to do in this lifetime, North Node, knowing how your students are going to perceive you, your rising, being conscious, like having a conscious awareness of who you are, your sun sign, like thinking about how you're deeply internalizing things and like what hits your soul, your moon, and then like where your success and things you're going to be like, you're really going to excel at, your midheaven. When I feel like when you know those things and you have a better inkling, like, yes, you have it already within you, but then when you see something and you read it and you know that those things that you're reading are directly aligned with the stars, directly aligned with the cosmos, hi, then that can really help to be your GPS so that you can get to where you're supposed to go in a much more efficient way. So I have my students research these 6 aspects of their chart, and then they creatively represent them in whatever artistic way that they choose to. And y'all, let me tell you, the proof is in the pudding. The astrology shows up in the art so profoundly. And for people who know astrology and read it, the person who created it, who's just learning, may not know, but then I showed them to Charlie, y'all. I'll get permission from my students and I'll show y'all another episode. But we were looking at these artworks and we were like, dude, this this is so telling. And if there was a way to get more people to be open-minded and not just so, well, I'm this and this is the religion that I was raised in and we don't do astrology, and like, no, okay, that's fine. So it's like, all right, how can you learn more about your identity? How can you learn more about your life path instead of using the word astrology? Because then that is more palatable, more easily digestible, and allows people to look at it in a different way without being discriminatory, without being dismissive. And a lot of students, as they were doing this project, felt so deeply resonant and were like, wow, it was so interesting to read these things, especially with what's been going on with these retrogrades. And they're like, how is that I'm reading this information and it's so on point? For those students who really resonated with it, they've been reading their horoscopes daily through time passages, right? And they've just been like, it's been so on point. It's been so on point. And I'm just really grateful for that, because imagine you start to have a collective of people who are more aligned with their story and who they are, as opposed to the story that's always been told about them. And then when they start to shift and align with that story and start actually doing the work, just like how we said earlier when we were doing the astrology forecast, like when you align with yourself and do what it is you're supposed to do, the rest of the collective just really wins and benefits.
Yeah. It- it's amazing to, it's really funny because the word astrology is actually very heavily targeted because it creates all these, to me it's kind of like the whole witchcraft, or the witch trials and that whole experience, right? It's if you take astrology out, where does it show up in our today's society? Psychology.
Deeply.
What? Brickman's Myers. What did they do? They took the four elements, they turned them into something called introvert, extrovert, empath, judgmental. I don't even know all the four things, but they actually
Hmm.
took a simplified version of astrology. And then I mean, basically they psychoanalyzed humans and basically found patterns that are basically a simplified version of astrology, right? And the reason that is because you cannot ask everybody about everything in their lives unless you were able to record the entire life. Because astrology actually spans your entire 100, 200, 300 years, depending however long
Yes.
you live, because it's really
Right.
an imprint that follows throughout time. And so what's really interesting is we actually do astrology, a lot of the psychoanalysis of people. What's happening is I'm hearing a ton of psychologists now asking astrologers to give them a cheat sheet of a patient,
No
because
way.
what's really difficult is half the time you meet the people, what are they doing? How many shields do you have up? You probably have your rising
Right.
shield, you have your sun shield, your
Yep.
moon shield, and if you got anything Scorpio, they're gonna come at
Woo.
you in a sideways hustle, right? Like it's
Deep.
and exactly. And then especially when like, how does that make you feel? No, you ask someone who is like easily triggered by that, they're just gonna shut down.
Dude, you got
Versus when
some Aquarius energy. You ain't gonna say nothing.
exactly that person wouldn't have shown up either, right? And that's what is really important is astrology, or even the idea of using the planetary alignment to understand who you are is because it's a soul connection.
Yes.
It goes
Yes.
deeper than the physical representation that anyone in today modern Western science uses just their eyes and ears and maybe
Yep.
nose and mostly mouth to understand the world, right? They just keep talking over what they're supposed to be listening to. So I do feel like, what I really feel is personal development classes need to be brought back into education. And if it was my choice, it'd be something like astrology, maybe human design, that allows you to also bridge that spiritual soul connection that
Yes.
takes you further beyond your physical reality, because we are multidimensional. When we do our dream work, I want to talk to a dream teacher, in my when I was
Man.
in high school. A dream
Right.
teacher would be awesome, a
Yes.
shaman type character that can go into the astral realm, right? And what's missing is some of these poor Scorpios. I met a few of these Scorpio kids, right? They wake up and like, Uncle Charlie, I see crazy shit. I'm like, it's okay. Let's work with this. I don't tell them and judge them of what they see, because
No.
we know the third eye is open. And so what would it take? What kind of teachers of tomorrow do we need to be so that we are not turning off our kids' superhuman abilities?
Deeply. Right. And I just want to share, right? As you were talking, I was like, let me look up the etymology of astrology.
Ooh, yes.
Okay. So astrology, a noun, late 14th century, the calculation and foretelling based on observation of heavenly bodies. From Latin astrologia, astronomy, the science of the heavenly bodies. And then from Greek astrologia as well, astronomy, literally a telling of the stars, right? And so it's like the stars have been here so much longer than us, everyone. Like, and I just think the audacity of us as humans and all of our power and glory and magnificence and how all these things just work and we don't even consciously have to do anything to make them work, but they work. To be like, yo, the stars don't know what they doing. You bold. You bold. To think that like whatever your idea is about the creator and all these other things, but to know that these heavenly bodies have existed far longer than we have, and to not glean to them for insight is completely audacious.
Do we want to know how important the stars were? They made monuments to understand the stars. One of them we call the Stonehenge. The Stonehenge,
Hmm.
if you guys look at it, looks exactly like an astro chart.
Yeah.
because we did not have a computer like we do today. Because clearly I am not writing any of these numbers. I do not know how all the stars are
Yeah.
aligned. But it for us to have the astrology chart today, we literally have to go outside at night, have people go look in the giant Stonehenge and every day mark where the stars were to see the
Right.
movements. Like uh, great minds have looked at stars, and the
Right.
Greeks were very much knowledgeable. Like one thing they said is if you don't know alchemy, astrology, and maybe astrophysics, like you don't know academics. I'm like, they're
Mm.
not teaching any of that in
None
academics.
of it. None
None
of
of
it. And then think about how farmers did what they do. Like, think about the almanacs. Almanacs, like, if you look at old school almanacs, they talk about moon cycles, they talk about seasons, all things related to the heavenly bodies. It's how our food is grown, right? You're not growing like massive, like melons in the fall, right? You're growing things that are like underground and rich and dense so that you can be more nurtured. Whereas in the summer, everything is like juicy and light and hydrating because it's hot.
that.
You need like, and so to y'all, it's all related. And so when we get back to the heavenly bodies, then we get back to the elements, we get back to who we are and what we're made of. Because guess what? We're all made of stars. Shocking.
Exactly.
But we need to remind people of that. We need to remember. And that's what Cosmic Labyrinth is about. It's such a huge component to what we advocate, what we talk about, why we do this show, right? Why I'm out here, Cal State Long Beach, infiltrating.
Yes.
Because we all need to wake up,
Yeah, yeah.
remember,
And be
and
the
take
change,
action.
right? Yes. And we take extra action by coming together, right? I think it's a very much a time where we find our strength together. We're not going to find our strength alone. Just like how the internet, the reason we love the internet today, because it bridges us all over the place, right? And so what the internet does is actually what humanity is supposed to do. What if we're nodes of light bodies, electrical nodes of electricity?
Definitely.
And as we move and connect with each other, we're downloading information in our resonant fields. And so when we connect together, a whole bunch of us connect, we're all downloading from our resonant fields. And that's why, you see like birds and animals, once they're really aligned to each other's
Mm,
field, they move as one, you know?
yes.
And that's because we're not, and we feel it. I mean, a lot of us, like when you give someone a hug, you feel so much energy from them. It's almost like you naturally tune in. And a lot of us are probably naturally also empaths. And so we're starting to tune in to people a lot more, right?
Yeah.
So with that, it's almost like we're exponentially evolving our consciousness because every time we go into each other's field, we're getting information faster than if we were to speak it now, right?
Mm, mm,
And that's the Aquarian age. It's almost like we got super internet on and it's our conscious minds. It's not
yes.
our verbal or our superficial language. It's now
No.
like a deeper language. And that's why I feel
And
these ideas of spirituality in a grounded space like astrology will give us an idea of how to work with spirituality instead of hoping some kind of random person with spiritual power shows up, right? Some
it's so
savior
true.
again.
No, and that Aquarian age, right? The thing, I mean, and all of y'all can look this up, but the Aquarian age is about Aquarius about is about the collective, about people coming together, about humanitarian things, and it's also Christ consciousness, meaning like thinking of yourself as being the creator, thinking of yourself as someone like I can create my own reality through the way I think, through the way I speak, right? Through who I connect with and who I create things with, right? They say that you are the sum of the people you hang around the most. So if you start hanging around people who believe they are creators of their reality, tap are tapping into the elements, understand that they're made of stars, do you know what a huge shift that would have on the entire collective consciousness? You
And
just
guess
really
what?
think about that.
We
Hmm,
only need 10% of us to do it.
that's it.
Yes, the monkey effect, right?
Shockwave, dude. Shockwave.
Do you know about the
Oh.
100th monkey experiment?
When you said that, I thought 12 monkeys, and I was like, I don't think that's what he's talking about.
No, 12 Monkeys is science fiction.
Psychological thriller, yeah.
Yes, yes. No, the 100th monkey experiment, y'all. This is how divinely connected we are, okay? And this is goes back to, the internet is a really great way of physicalizing our natural internet within our brain, like Avatar. They did an experiment where these monkeys in Japan were given sweet potatoes, but they dropped it on the sand. So what would happen is, you guys eat anything from the sand, you try it,
Oh,
you just
mm.
only get sand and ruin the whole experience. And so these monkeys could not eat it, but they kept trying to figure out how to get to eat it because they couldn't figure out to actually get it clean, right? So what they found is they would go to different monkey groups and drop it and see which one would pick it up. Eventually, one would get it, and then that one would show it to another one. And then eventually they would kind of see how many it would take. And what happened is they found that after the 100th monkey in one region got it, across the entire continent, wherever those monkeys were, they all got it in an instant. Yeah. Meaning that if there's a tipping point of consciousness where it just makes sense that the basically the monkeys or the beings that are experiencing that shift, they're like, this is amazing. We should all do it. It actually will
Wow.
seep into the consciousness of others, right? This is the idea of trend
Wow.
setting, right? When you think about trend setting, it's the same concept. You trend set 100 crazy people needs to show up, and once the 100 crazy people show up, everybody starts to pick up the idea that it's not that crazy. It's actually really cool.
And they know this. This is so much about what social media is about. This is like,
Social programming, yes, right?
yes,
And so now we're trying to figure
controversy.
out how do we then really program ourselves, because the idea of programming, not programming, that's what the word influence is, right? When you meet someone and you like talking to them, that's influence.
Yes.
Let's say what it is. It's energy interacting and working together. So
Yes.
why not work it our way rather than being reactive to the energetics of the matrix that's telling us what to do, right? What if we could actually learn? That's what we talk about in being creators, is understanding the cause and effect, how the four elements interact, how the four energies of humans interact. Because then the four elements actually are in the human. And so the way we interact with each other, right, gives us more abilities to share in each other's strengths,
Right.
right? And so that's the power of where we can bring astrology to kind of give people more understanding of who they are and allow them to represent that and express that in any form.
Man, and I want to remind everyone, or not even remind, but encourage you to study how, like, presently there are so many world leaders who rely on astrologers. In addition, there used to be a time where a medical doctor would not see you unless they had your astrological information. Like, these are just Google, right? And so when you start to think about, like, why did this information become so taboo and so heavily dismissed? It's because, just like we were talking about, it goes against the social programming. It goes against the collective programming, because if you have these individuals who are like so aware of who they are, they can't be manipulated, they can't be controlled. All they'll do is buck up and rage against the system, and that's not what is wanted, right? So I mean, just sip on that tea, y'all, please. Just sip on it. Like,
um,
that's why we're here. That's why we're here, and
yeah.
we do it in a way that's like friendly and open, and we're here for discussions. We're here for the challenges, you know, but that's how we grow is by being able to have these types of conversations and this discourse
So
so that
let's
we can tap into the multidimensionality of who we are.
yes. So let's take it a little bit further, right? We've had these conversations of what astrology is, to our lives, to who we are. But let's take it further. Like, we are really as we are at the age now where we have enough experience to be able to share to our younger generation. What are some things that as we become aware of this multidimensional selves, how do we think we could recreate a system of education that is more supportive of our natural talents while bringing the right teachers and students? Because this is also the real meat of Cosmic Labyrinth, is really facilitating the connection between finding the right teachers for the right students, right? And allowing that to come through. And what's really great about astrology is it gives a lot of those. Really, it's like Pokemon, y'all. Imagine that your Pokemon monsters are the Pokemon teachers that you learn from, right? And so
Mm,
you're really going out there, got to catch them all. Which teacher do you want to teach you, right? Which Pokemon do you want to have? Because they're going to be the one to teach you something. And understanding your astrology, like if you, and especially sometimes if you have a family that's heavy, let's say heavy grounded earth energy with a lot of fire, and you're very flowy energy Libra slash, with some beautiful fire energy of Aries, and you need that really creative freedom to do everything, but yet like living in a, you know you do what I tell you to do, follow the order, and you have to do, like a very restrictive family, a lot of that personal creativity would really not flourish, right?
no.
That's why we need community, so that kids in general can find the right soil to jump to flourish if their parental or their cultural family space isn't necessarily supporting that, right? And
Mm,
I hope
mm,
that, the parents do too. I've had many conversations where I've had parents now who have children. They're like, I don't understand my kids. And then I do a small reading on them, and they're like, wow, you just gave me the cliff notes of what I've been doing for 10 years. You couldn't just tell me that early. I'm like, maybe you need to experience it. But now it's almost like they're able to kind of work with the energy rather than fight it. It's like, wow, I thought I needed to fight it, but I just needed to let it express. And once it expressed itself, it didn't fight me. I was like,
mm.
oh, because you wanted to put a collar on that horse. You wanted to
Yeah.
restrain that dog because it wanted to sniff everyone because it's naturally wants to sniff
Yes.
everyone. It's just so interesting, what we have done to ourselves without
Mm,
any guidance, and I think it's because a lot of us, students, I personally feel like this. I had to leave the academic field to go to libraries to get more information about the topics I was interested in,
yep.
because the teachers weren't providing it, or they said these are the versions of physics you have to study, not
Yeah.
these. And that
Right.
bothered me because I didn't think I was coming to be told what to study. I thought I was coming here to explore what
Mm. And
we as
experience.
we as a culture were dumping down to our Gen X generation. Hey, here's the stuff we learned. Dumping down to the kids so that they start learning our mistakes so that they like improve on it. Right. And yet we forgot that they're supposed to be our peers of tomorrow. We're supposed to be
Mm.
working with them.
I mm. As you were talking, it dawned on me that we just left the age of Pisces, right? And if you know about astrology, Pisces are your institutions, right? But
Mhm.
guess what Pisces also is, y'all? Illusion.
Mhm.
So
Or
the illusion, right, right? The delusion of institutions and how those delusions are supposed to be what it is that we need. But now we're shifting into age of the of Aquarius, which is about the collective, which is about humanitarian movements and cause, but it's about connecting with people.
and it's the collective individual. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people are afraid that when we become this collective, that everybody's the same and it's a hive mind. No, it's not the hive
Oh,
mind. Going back to that puzzle experience, It's that our collective is beautiful when we all are become individualized, right? When we
Yeah.
individualize each other and appreciate that.
Empowered in our individualism, right? Even look, just a little for those of y'all who are in relationships, okay? Is it gonna be more ideal for you to do exactly what your partner does and that y'all are on some like weird codependent type of thing? Or are you gonna feel more satisfied knowing that each of you are doing your own individual thing, feeling excited and happy about it, and then when you come together, it's that much more dynamic and powerful because you're each letting each other be, you're each letting each other do your own thing, but then when you come together, you can appreciate each other that much more because you can see your partner like, "Go and do your thing," and they're like, "Go and do your thing," and then it's a party, right? When things are all the same, it's just like when we talk about art. We don't want to see the same art everywhere. Yes, there can be a collective of artists, but each of those artists within that collective are bringing different things to the table for people to consume and enjoy and have different experiences from. It's incredibly important. Could you imagine going into an art gallery where absolutely every artwork looks the same?
Right. And so what's really interesting is astrology already has cycles for that. And that's why
Yep.
the idea of the sun going through the 12 houses, the 12 astrology means each sign gets 30 days of, hey, do your thing. We're all watching you.
Yes.
Because, right, we're
It's
all
your
like passing on the
stage.
crown.
It's your stage,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah. What I thought was really I was gonna say something, I forgot. It was I had to get back to it.
Mercury
Oh,
out there.
actually, yes. I wanted to go back to the part where you said about relationship. What's really interesting too is, I think understanding that sometimes we we create expectation of what it should be, not what it naturally happens from energy. And so this idea actually
Mm,
is we tell ourselves relationship, we have to be together. Actually, in a real relationship, is you're so strong in yourselves that you attract each other to each other. That's only being yourselves can you really like get that attraction that kind of bounces back and forth, right? Because a lot
yeah,
of times what happens when you're too much of the same, it like clicks and it becomes this like one goo, right? One mesh, and there's no like this bouncing of attraction of like energy moving between the two. And what's
right.
and that's really important in becoming both, your individual selves, and then you guys are coming to sharing each, and so because of that, you've had your time doing your thing. It's almost like you're attracting each other because you're so much apart. Versus
Mm,
we like to think that it's
mm,
because we're together that we can't split. No, it's actually because you're doing so much that you naturally like, oh my God, you're so attractive when you do your thing. But when you don't do your
yeah,
thing, it just collapses and now you're
yes,
like hitting each other.
yeah.
You're not creating
Oh,
that natural electron field like energetics that you're like pushing on each other. And that creates this, that's what we call attraction, right? And people like to say it's
yeah.
woo-woo, but it's physical attraction too. It's magnetic, the polar opposite. When
I
you're
love
very negative and very
that.
positive, you're going to create that wow, 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 wow.
Oh, and that's my favorite part about a magnet. Like, yes, there's that thing when it clicks, but then when you like have it and there's like that tension, and you're like, whoa, what is this? I can
Yeah,
feel it.
invisible magic, right?
What
Yes,
a powerful way of explaining that. That's so awesome. Because just because you can do this doesn't mean that's how you want to exist and live your whole life. Like, how can you be your own individual when you're like this? When you're
exactly.
like this and you have that magical tension that's there, like that's the good stuff.
I guess in math, it's the logarithmic. As you get closer, you get further, you get closer and closer, but you never reach. And that keeps the attraction. Otherwise,
Right.
right, once you reach infinity, you don't want infinity. It's because you never reach it that makes you infinity.
Dude, this how did we just got like Dr. Phil, bring it.
Mercury's in Virgo. Oh, I had to Virgo some of that. And that's why you brought out the etymology book.
No, it's
Because
real.
Virgo's
It's
like, hey,
so
hey, be
real.
very precise with your words, y'all.
It is. But yo, this is the importance, right? Like earlier today, as you know, we were prepping for the show, y'all, we were talking about the etymology of the word nice and how it's shifted. How is a word that meant this thing, right? Actually, let me bring it up. Like the word used to mean one thing, and now all of a sudden we're using it in a way that no, etymology adjective, late 13th century, foolish, ignorant, frivolous, senseless. And then you bump it up to the 1700s and all of a sudden it means agreeable and delightful. Who did that?
Hmm.
Oh, it's the Jedi mind trick. So it's like when you don't understand the power of your words and what you're
Come
saying and how
from.
you repeatedly saying it, how that affects you, how that affects your, it literally affects you on a cellular and energetic level. Be mindful, like be so consciously aware of what it is you're saying, because the subconscious effects is real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very real.
Yeah. The subconscious is actually more powerful, right? Because
That's,
what we
yes.
don't realize is we believe we're in control in the waking stage. You're never in control in your sleeping stage. And that's the subconscious. Yo,
Dude.
that means the subconscious is in control unless you learn to lucid and become more in control of that subconsciousness. But that's years of practice. But I believe this is what the things we should be training. If we want to be Hogwarts,
Yes.
y'all, like some of us are want to be Hogwarts or are
Yes.
Hogwarts. So we're just trying to figure out how is it that we're going to create really a magic school that works for all of us, because we don't have all the spells, and that's the brilliance
No.
of astrology when you look at it. I have been in the metaphysical space a lot, and I've experienced the different claircognizant, clairaudient, clear abilities with people, and
Yes.
for some reason a lot of times the astrology will be spot on the type of clear abilities they had.
Yeah.
I find Libras are they hear way more voices than most. Like
Dude. Yes.
it trips me out every time because I can tell when there's an air sign, they usually have voices in their head, right? And they have
Mm.
strong clairaudient abilities. And I usually catch them off guard. They're like, how do you know? And so one time I was telling her, I'm like, I know you hear voices. She goes, yes. And I was like, so like about how many? And I was like, 100. She goes, Charlie, thousands
Right.
voices. And you're just like, oh shit, that's intense. And that just shows that
Mm.
we naturally have these abilities, and a lot of us were probably scared to use them, but in our
Right.
chart, it shows our natural tendencies for them, right? So a lot of times when I get people, coming up, waking up from their spiritual, slumber, they're like, "Oh, Charlie, how do I know what my spiritual gifts are?" And I think spiritual envy is the biggest thing that I think what happens when we wake up,
Oh,
right? I
yes.
highlighted to you, wow, that guy can do that. That girl can do that. That is so cool. She like just talks and she knows what she's talking about. Like you're like,
Man,
wow, you can like talk
dude.
about people just by being there, and like you don't, like that's so powerful, magical, And so what happens when you wake up? You're like, how come I don't have these abilities, right?
Mm. But I
And
want to, something I want to share about that.
mhm.
And I've learned this, right? I feel like I began my awakening over was 2013, 9 years ago,
Me too.
right? Really?
2013, yes, after
No
2012, and then you're
way.
just like, wait, something's changed. Yeah.
I love you so much, Charlie. Okay, like
We've been on
y'all
the
don't even
same path.
understand. Like we're like in Sanrio, like the star, the little star twins. That's like Charlie and I. I just want y'all to know. Like anyway, I I really have learned it's not about the I, right? There's a reason that I am is the first sign or the first part of the chart. Because as you evolve and go through the chart, you get to a point where you surrender. You surrender to the power of spirit. You surrender to the power of the unknown. You surrender to this idea that I am not running shit. As much as I feel like I am, as much as they try to tell me yeah, you are. Like, yes, I'm the creator of my own reality, but then it's like, Okay, deja vu. Why am I having deja vu? Oh, is this just like an inkling that I'm like on the right path and my higher self is showing me aspects of like what I've already experienced? Oh, the surrender to the unknown, y'all, has been such a pivotal experience for me in my journey because instead of being so rooted in ego and allowing myself to communicate more with what you can't see, to communicate more with ancestors, to ask more questions, to be like, yo, higher self, like, please help me to really discern. Please help to guide me. Getting to the point where I'm saying those things and communicating those things, it's so helpful. But then it's also asking asking to be shown people who you can really commune with and really have these conversations with. Like for Charlie and I to be starting this journey back in 2013, y'all, you think we just met each other. It's been less than a year. But because
We
we've
met
been
in person
diligent,
once.
right? But then we've had like really powerful interactions because it's that cosmic, it like beautiful, energetic, multidimensional like connection that we have. And that's something that you can't see. I mean, we accept the fact that we can call someone on this thing from like thousands of miles away, but then we don't think that we can connect with someone energetically in the same way. What
Yeah.
are we doing, y'all? What are we doing?
As a technologist, what I'd like to really help people understand is that technology is not the first time we've seen these abilities. Actually, technology is copying what we used to do as real divine beings, really tuned in with our soul energy.
Mm,
And so what we're doing in our phone, like you guys know, it's still crystals in here.
yep.
They've hijacked, turned the
Look.
crystals into doing what they want to do, but it does what we're naturally doing. Remember the movie Avatar, where your hair connects to the tree branch and you connect like an Ethernet cable to a tree and you access the data of the tree, right?
Oh, the antennas? Oh, the antennas that
The
people try to
antennas that like
deny?
we all kind of carry back here, we like coiled up into our head, we should actually carry the whole all the power cables. We should totally use that as like a new
You're
way of
right.
hairstyle. Because what's that? It's like, oh, it's my new PC cables. I
It's
just
how I
plug it in.
connect. It's
I
how I
connect,
tap
let me
in.
connect to this tree right here.
Mm,
Wait, where was I going with that tangent?
mm. Just the connectivity and how we like technology thinks
Oh,
that's not yeah.
technology in the phone. So really this idea of remembering our psychic abilities is if we naturally in our phone we're like, hey, I wonder how this person is doing. In that aspect, when you think about someone, your energy is actually being sent
Yep.
to a different dimension, localized. This is called really quantum entanglement, because that
Mm,
person, you've entangled your energy before, so you can always find them, right? And this is why, unfortunately, when you break up with someone who you've had sexual intercourse, you've already linked yourself genetically in ways.
yes.
And so what happens is anywhere they think about you, they have a direct link to you. So the energy can, that's why you get these weird vibes when someone, like, let's say your ex breaks up with you and they are really hateful towards you and you get this weird vibe,
Yep.
you get the heebie jeebies. That's why, in different culture, the brujas and, have to do all that magic stuff to really cut the cord. In prana healing,
Yes.
clean your hand, do a cord, psychic cords. In X-Men, Psylocke had the psychic swords and she was cutting cords all day long. If I were to
Yes.
turn, our superheroes into like metaphysical superheroes to help our lives, be Psylocke is my like, hey, Psylocke, can you cut some cords for me? What's
For real. For real. That's so
right?
man.
And so that's the quantum connection, right? How we relate to each other. We talk about it in Reiki, we talk about pranic healing. So it's very much a scientific thing. And that's what we talk about energetic holes in our auric field. All that is very much a real thing. We're now using electricity, or I'm sorry, the like machines to understand that we are still using voltage and magnetism in our auric field to measure. Why aren't they using magnetism to measure our auric field? Because they want us to see that there are shifts in our auric field when we feel
Yes.
emotionally. That's why actually you guys know I put metal needles in your body when I'm using acupuncture, because
Wow.
I'm using electrical currents to move energy in your body. Electrical currents is a very simplified Western way of explaining, moving electrons is one version of that. But it's
Mm,
energy, that is just moving, and you can call it, magnetic energy too. You can move. The idea of emotion is a magnetic wave of energy that comes out. So that's why the idea of um, waves and particles. I'm sorry I'm getting technical, but
no, I think
in
this is
Virgo.
great.
But the
No.
idea is when people say like, "Oh, is it a particle? Is it a wave?" I say, "Well, is it a JPEG or a movie?" It's the same
Oh,
thing. Depends
right.
on whether you wanted a movie of particles. And so the particle wave, as much as they like to label things, when we label, we disregard the other aspect that it could be,
Mm.
right? And that's why this particle wave conversation is again misdirecting that it's both, and it's that amazing.
Dude, I want us to kind of, so our wellness, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I'm
Yeah.
serious because I had my first acupuncture experience about 2 or 3 weeks ago at the Bhakti Love Fest. And I was reprogrammed with that experience. I know I was. And I say that I was reprogrammed because the first of all, it was acupuncture, but then tuning forks were used. Tuning forks tuned to the different planetary energies, and then the frequency of sound. And that whole experience, I have been a different person. The way I've been thinking, the way I've been like feeling myself, and like the journey that I've been on. And it was literally through acupuncture. So as you were saying just now, like it's an energy current, and like the same way a train, when people are doing the things with the train tracks and they flip a switch, think about, and this is, and tell me if I'm wrong, but this is like I'm transitioning into the wellness thing, but tell me if I'm wrong. When you put in a needle in a certain meridian or point, that sends an electric signal, and that is like it's a shift, it's a pivot, it's a change of pace from what that energetic center had been doing all this time. I'm 39 years old and literally just got acupuncture. And so I y'all, when I say I feel different, I'm not just saying it to be like, oh, it's cosmic labyrinth, let's just like pull some stuff out. No, I really mean this in such like a sincere way. And I just want to transition to that because I feel like people really need to know, especially because it's available through a lot of these like what Medi-Cal, and like it's available as a benefit. Like if you've never considered getting acupuncture, obviously go to someone that's reputable, perhaps word of mouth, but it's life changing.
Yeah. And let's really, I mean, I'm excited we're going to the well
I'm
being
gonna turn on my
part.
lights. I'll be right back.
Yes, yes. And we would like to share, at the end of every show, towards the end, we wanted to kind of share a well-being piece because we're both in the well-being space. And, for us, it's really important about how, if we're empowering ourselves, we also have to have a level of wellness. And so,
Yep.
what's beautiful is actually the train track is beautiful analogy too. So, the idea is in 20 minutes, you get a full circuitry of energy that goes to your body. Okay.
Wait, so if you do it for an hour, huh.
So, yeah. So it depends on what's happening, right? Because then you go deeper and deeper. Because 20 minutes is really the first loop. And that's why we do very quick 20-minute retention. Because what it's doing is, like you said, let's say it's going on a track, but let's say this track has all these problems along the track. So now this train track has been running the long route around the body. Maybe it doesn't go all the way. It doesn't go downtown anymore, maybe because it's like the tracks are too dirty. No one even pulls the lever. And so there's no way to get to downtown. So what happens, the train track really stays in one corner of your city. And then we put these needles down here, and it basically says, hey, we actually shifted the train tracks and turned them back on. So now you can go to the part that's dirty, maybe there's trash on the track. But because we put electricity, you're going to go through that trash, and that trash is going to get off the rails. And now you're going to like basically clean it up because you're moving. It's like how when we walk through a trail, it creates a trail because it's
Yeah.
overused that it becomes a trail. The same thing is you're creating a meridian, because the meridian is just energy. And as energy goes through, it opens up again. And now it's clear for energy to come through. So yeah,
Wow.
so we basically turn it depending on what we need to tonify. We need to put like send more train tracks, more trains that way, but less trains because there's too many trains there. You gotta everybody take the I'm a traffic controller of
For real,
your
of your
internal
energy.
traffic, and you're like, I think there's traffic over here. Yo. Yeah, you guys need to get out of here. They don't need that much stuff going on here.
I didn't even I was sharing based how the experience felt. And to know like that's exactly what it's doing. Come on.
So especially where it's problems where you put needles there, but also the organs, and so it'd say, hey, we want you to go there extra. So it does an extra
Mm.
loop maybe in the organ to support whatever organ, because really it's actually people don't understand. Actually, when we say look within, how about we look right before we go to Neptune? Let's go right before within. You have internal body parts that we are protecting that we don't understand
Mm.
are
Mm.
actually who we are. In the movie Inside Out, there were four, ironically, elemental consciousness, right?
Yes.
Or element, in our
Oh,
minds, right?
yes.
So imagine in TCM, it's the same idea, but they're represented in five organs of the yin side, five organs of the yang side. We say because yang is basically creating energy from the food we eat, and the yin organs are basically just storing liquids so that we can function, right? And so those organs create energy for us. It's the five elemental four elements in like in astrology. It's interacting and working together. So when one has a problem, it kind of affects the other, right? And so that's us trying to create balance. And so even in astrology, right, or in general, understanding how to balance who you are. Because some people who like in medical astrology, if you're more of a water sign, if I look at your chart, you have a lot of water, you're going to have lymphatic issues, you're going to have water issues, edema issues, because if you run out of fire and what we call the fiery energy, which is the adrenals or the energy that gives you this fiery energy, if you run out of that, all your energy of the water becomes stagnant and becomes pooled around your body, creating edema. A lot of
Wow.
these concepts are just excess deficiencies in the four elements causing a problem somewhere. If you run out of the water element, you're just running hot. So you're always hot, red. You might have a lot of shingles, is this burning hot along a meridian, which is right,
Mhm.
you basically the water becomes hot and toxic. And so everything is just damp heat, right? And
Dude.
that damp heat is like the summer heat that we experience in Houston. People get all like sweaty and they want to itch because it's so hot. It
Right.
happens to your skin because the elements are off balance, causing dysfunction.
Wow.
And they're just all elementals, and that's why it's really nice to study this medicine today, because I'm using natural phenomena to explain what's happening in your body. I'm not using some kind of fancy function, quantum mechanics to understand your body. It's like, no, when too much water, you get edema. When not enough water, you get burning hot. I mean,
And I was going through that like before
yeah.
I started eating based on like my blood type and like yeah, I was overheating, I was having night sweats. It was a lot and because I had so much fire.
And your
So
body
much
was not
fire.
processing and managing that correctly. Yeah. So food is important because food also fit the categories of the four elements.
Oh my goodness. Y'all, and then Okay, so look, watch how this is about to flow. So like we're part of the cosmic labyrinth, y'all. We're cosmic labyrinthers. And like there are different things that we all contribute and different things that we all create, right? Cosmic Labyrinth is sponsoring this show because each of us, we have all the different things that we do. And one of the things that Charlie does, right? He makes these really amazing TCM cards,
Yeah.
right? And I have my first set,
Oh,
but
oh, yeah.
but yeah, tell them, break it down. What just happened?
Wait, so when we show my card?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So these are basically, I have like, I made a really cool TCM, you know how the side turned into an image?
Yes, dude, that's
Reminds me
so
of the
dope.
old but Pokemon is kind of like a really fun game that kids grew up, and I felt like studying herbs felt like Pokemon cards. So I turned all of my Chinese medicine studies, all these herbs that I needed to study, and I turned them into the actual cards that look like Pokemon cards. And so now I can actually study my cards like I'm playing a game and basically gamified my studying habits because I was just struggling with being too much of a in my head kind of person, and I wanted to have fun because I love playing games. I'm a heavy Leo's energy, so playing games is really and joyful for me. So I turn my cards into these really beautiful flashcards or really game cards. And actually, what happens is because the pictures are of nature, so of the actual plant before you harvest them. So you can
Mm.
actually go out in nature and find these plants, like if you were finding a Pokemon, right?
Dude, yes, in real life, y'all.
In real life. And so it's really right now in the niche of the TCM program because I'm right in TCM, and so I'm providing a service to my own group. But I realized that people wanted to learn about herbs outside of traditional Chinese medicine. Really, it's traditional medicine. That the East brought theirs. Because all these plants might be grown from the East, but we have the counter or the sister brother plant here in the West, and we have forgotten all this. So maybe together, once I'm done with these, I will eventually bring the West herbs together, and maybe there's a way to mix like a multiversity of herbal cards. And that's kind of my way of being a cosmic labyrinther, is sharing my knowledge and passing down these traditional theories so that everybody can learn a little bit about how our bodies work, right? So I'm really excited where I finished the first three sets, and it's for 3 semesters in school, but it's over like 300 herbs that you have to learn in Chinese medicine. So I'm excited to be able to share that with everybody.
Oh, it's so exciting, y'all. I have my first set and I have to like level up to get the other two. It's such really powerful information and it's cool when you get to go through the deck and you're like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. And then you're like, wow, this is like actually right outside in my backyard. And you had no idea, but when you have the cards with you and you utilize them that way, you're literally going around in your day to day edifying yourself, learning about herbs that you didn't even take for granted because you didn't know that they existed. But these card sets help you to like tap in and connect. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Go Charlie
Thank
out.
you. So you guys can find these herb cards on Etsy, or I'll put the link in the YouTube clip. But that's kind of one of our, we have like an Etsy shop, and we're trying to build some funds to really sponsor and really. I feel like if there's a way to really make education free, how will we do that? So
Right.
let's find
Yeah.
ways to fund, awesome knowledge together.
Yeah, and just to kind of remind people, just to give them the vision, like when you think about like education, how it used to be, maybe even like Confucius, right? You have the vision of like, where was he? Outside. What was next to him? A tree. Who was he surrounded by? Students, right? And you just, why did we get away from that? And how can we get back to that? And that's what Cosmic Labyrinth is truly about at its essence, at its core, is getting back to the elements and elementary and really allowing everyone who wants to be a part of it, whether you're a teacher, right? Like, students, I'm coming after you. You're coming on the show. Just get ready, right? Because the more you can learn how education does not have to just be relegated into the walls of a classroom, that you realize that this world is your classroom and that you can take the opportunity to educate at any given moment. It's game changing.
Yes.
Literally, because this is a game.
Yes.
Ah.
Now, I like to also share with everybody that Miss Tizzle also has some awesome oils
Mm.
that have she also shared with me. I
Yeah.
have a set too. It's great because it's smells really trigger very deep stuff that like sometimes you can't even put words to it, right? And that's what I love. Just sometimes with like getting a smell whiff of it when you're not like you forgot there's something in your on your hands. You're like, oh, it just triggers you. So I really appreciate these
Mm.
oils, and I'm sure Tizzle is so good at just the subtle energy, and I'm sure she is tuning in to everybody's energy.
That's what it is, y'all. It's the subtle energy and just getting people more in connection with it, right? The oils are called Aromacora intentional perfume oils, and I just freely create them, right? It's a combination of aromatology, which is the science of how scent makes you respond emotionally, and then aura, which is another word for your sense of smell beyond just your auric body. Yes, Google it, y'all. I know, isn't it amazing? So Aromacora is the name of my brand, and oil has been my heart since I was a little, our perfume smells have been my heart since I was younger. And now getting to create these perfumes, like I have perfumes based on the celestial bodies of each day of the week.
Ooh.
I have perfumes that are based off like really deep memories. Like one of them is called Tom Bar because my last name is Thomas and my mom's last name is Bar. And it's us and the fragrance, you
Oh,
know?
beautiful.
And
Yeah.
when people smell it, they're like, oh, this is really sweet and nurturing. And I'm like, yeah, it's me and my mom. And they're like, oh, no way. I can totally feel it. Like, why can you feel it? Because it's literally infused with that intention. And
Mhm.
then I Reiki everything. I Reiki everything. So when Charlie talks about the subtle energy, it's really in there, y'all. It's
Yeah.
really, really in there. So this is these are just two of the things that we do, right? As being part of the cosmic labyrinth. Like there are others, and we all have our different gifts and our way of connecting with y'all as the collective. And it's just to really support our vision and mission of reconnecting with the elements, reconnecting with each other, and breaking free from these confines of our mind.
Yeah. And so speaking of which, we are starting to kind of build the next phase of the cosmic labyrinth, is really to start finding more of this relationship between apprenticeship and teacher, right? So
Yep.
we are looking for like Miss Tizzle, right? Great art teacher, but really looking to get out into the system and really build her own kind of educational platform. So we're looking to bring our own little art program here at Cosmic Labyrinth, and Miss Tizzle will be kind of helping build it out. And I'm excited to be able to share whatever kind of game experience I have to really develop, art. I think art is beautiful. I mean, I took, Virgo studying herbal cards and turned it into art so that we can enjoy it as a game too. So, there's ways to really all of us be able to be creative. So, really excited to be able to bring in all the different people that will come on the show that also support the greater Cosmic Labyrinth mission. This is not just, a company, a business. This is really an
Mm,
idea that we want to spread
mm,
to everyone. Look within to who you are so that you can express that deeper side of who we are. So if astrology is the way
mm.
we connect, maybe it's human design. Maybe it's just only being around people and experiencing people to understand who you are. But
Yes.
it's really important that we empower ourselves so that collectively we are this beautiful masterpiece.
Oh, I love it. I feel really compelled before we like head out. I just want to remind people like of our mission and like what we do, right? Just
Yes.
to like tap in, right? So the cosmic portals have opened and we are awakening to a rehumanizing cosmic consciousness where everyone can discover their cosmic powers. This is an important time where we learn to build and experience heart centered technology that connects us to the natural world and our inner selves. Cosmic Labyrinth is a multi dimensional and ever evolving experience where children and inner children are empowered to live with curiosity and cosmic consciousness. We are developers, artists, healers, and scientists building an inter-evolutionary gaming platform that is a nexus of knowledge about ancient cultures, mystic wisdom, and self-care.
Yeah.
We are curating educational play shops online and in person that reconnect us to the wisdom of the elements and the science and spirituality inherent in them. So if like y'all are hearing this and it's deeply resonating, reach out, right? When you are ready to deep dive with us and become a cosmic labyrinther, click the link in our bio, right? In the information about this video and get ready because it's a
Yeah.
really like dope, amazing adventure. And just the experience I've had in these past couple of months that I've been a part of the Cosmic Labyrinth, it's been really reforming and evolutionary on so many levels. And I'm so grateful because it's like imagine asking for something for so long and then spirit finally aligning you to where you get it. And you're just like, what? Is this for real? I found my twin star, Charlie. What? Yes.
And I love that we're opposite sun signs.
I was just gonna say it. I was
Virgo
just
and
about to
Pisces. Yo, this astrology's weird.
say it. But it's powerful.
So,
And just know that it's real when you are diligent and you're consistent with your thoughts and what it is you want and where it is you want to go, spirit will provide it for you. And you keep taking your steps that you need to take on your journey and for your path, like doing your thing. And then all the rest of it will like literally magnetize to you. So yeah, it's
yeah. Yes, it
amazing.
is. Well, thank you everyone for listening to our conversations about how to improve education for all of us. It was a great, experience to be talking about astrology with you, Miss Tizzle.
Always,
And,
always, Charlie. I love
and we'll
you.
hope to see you all very soon, okay?
Yes. See you soon, y'all.
Bye,
Stay
everybody.
up. Peace.